Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Cancer, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of June. I hope you're well. I'm using the Crow Tarot for you today. So if the reading resonates and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. The link for that will be down in the description box. Obviously, if you support me on Patreon, you get access to all the extended content for no extra cost. Do I have anything else? I don't think I have anything else to tell you. Let's get straight on with this, Cancer. We have 3 cards for Cancer, please. Well, there's the first one, and tumbling down there, we've got the Fool. In your recent past, that's Aries energy. Current energy, please. We have, oh goodness, Ace of Swords. A lot of newness going on around you, Cancer. And one more, what's coming towards Cancer, please. Thank you. Ooh, we have the 9 of Swords in reverse. Okay, I like this. I like this very lot. Really? I like this a lot, very much. We have the 3 of Cups at the bottom of the deck there, which I like for you because it's a card that speaks to me about not just the importance of emotional support, but the presence of it, right? It's something, an energy that you are feeling around you quite strongly at this time, and it does seem like there's quite a bit going on with you. It's interesting that the 9 of Swords is in the reverse, somewhat alleviated in June, coming towards you, and yet we have all of this new energy first, and it makes me wonder if perhaps what you're experiencing is kind of new beginnings that you're not quite sure what you think about yet. That's probably the best way to put it. Let's get some clarifiers and see what's going on here for you. Can you tell me about the Fool, please? Why is that here for Cancer? We have the World. Well, okay, that's stating the obvious. We have the Fool, and we've got the Star. That's very nice. Nice combination. Trifecta of, major arcana cards there. Tell me about Ace of Swords, please. Oh, what do we have there? We have the 2 of Pentacles. And we have the Hanged Man there. And can we also have something for this 9 of Swords? Thank you. What do we have here? We have the Queen of Pentacles. And we have the King of Cups, right. So we've got the 4 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck here, and it's followed by the Lovers. It is followed, subsequent to that, by the Tower. And that's a shed load of major arcana energy for you, Cancer. An absolute shed load. The 4 of Pentacles talks about that which we're holding on to, sometimes too tightly, other times it's holding on to what is important. But I think there's some senses where you've kind of just held on by the skin of your teeth to something. The Lover's card does speak about coming into alignment after a Tower moment here for you, and it's cards of Scorpio and Gemini respectively. But I think rather than clamping on too tightly to something, although there might be an aspect of that, just a little aspect of that somewhere, it does speak more, I think, at this point, into holding on to what is important, right? Whether or not you've had the right idea of what was important or not, that's a different matter, and possibly one that's worth exploring. We might go into that in the Vimeo. But for now, what we've got on the table is the Fool. And this is in your recent past, right? This is a new beginning of sorts. It can speak of trust. It can speak of throwing yourself into the void somewhat. I feel like the presence of the Tower in the shadow cards makes this feel a little bit like it's something that's been thrust upon you, like that slight uneasiness about the new start that I'm feeling coming through quite strongly. Almost like, I know this is for the best. I know this is what I wanted. Possibly is what I wanted. For some of you, it's what you wanted. For others, it's not something that you were terribly comfortable with. But nevertheless, change is welcome. We should welcome change. But it's new. It's different, right? And sometimes it can be uncomfortable. We have the World card underneath there, signifying, obviously, that something has come to completion and we've had a very neat ending and a very neat beginning. What's taken a bit of time, and what is taking a bit of time, I would say, actually, is the adjustment to the new. Now, I said I felt that there might be a little bit of just holding on to something a little bit too tightly, possibly. Some sort of kind of, it's something in here. And I think, actually, now I'm sitting with this, it's the familiar that you're hankering for. It's not for that which has ended in any respect other than the fact that you knew it and it was familiar. And now you're in unknown territory and you don't know what's going on. Well, you do know what's going on, but you haven't quite found your feet yet. This star is quite interesting because it does suggest that it is actually something that you did want, but perhaps it's come to you a little more suddenly than you'd anticipated. You know, period of adjustment, again, being the thing that is important here. Tell me about the star card. We've got the Five of Pentacles and we've got the Eight of Pentacles. Now that's interesting. There's the Three of Cups again at the bottom of the deck, speaking to the presence of people who are, you know, providing you with emotional support through this transition. But we go from a poverty, you know, a feeling of poverty with the Five of Pentacles, the feeling of not having enough, or sometimes a fear of not having enough, to the Eight of Pentacles, which is working away at something until you achieve mastery at it, right? It's getting your nose really to the grindstone. You want something, you've got to make it happen. What I feel here, Cancer, is that you've kind of made it happen, right? It's coming and it's manifesting, as we saw here with that Lover's card there, in almost exactly the way that you anticipated. And what you did not anticipate was that loss of the familiar. Right, that would be quite so much of an issue as it is, because it feels in some ways you've got exactly what it is that you wanted. You've got exactly what it is that you set out to manifest, and yet there is an unease. Now, that's okay, as long as we understand exactly where it's coming from. And like I said, it is the fact that everything is just a bit unfamiliar to you, and you know, that's fine. In your current energy, you've got the Ace of Swords. Now, this is a lovely card, actually. It does speak about, you know, perhaps epiphanies. And I think this is probably part of the epiphany for you, is that actually you're not quite as comfortable with this as you anticipated that you would be. And it can be the truth. You know, the Ace of Swords is an energy that pierces through any kind of fog of confusion. It is what it is, you know, and I wonder if that is the thing that you're having trouble adjusting to, that things are as they now are, and they won't go back to how they were before. Even though you didn't enjoy how they were before, you didn't like how they were before, now is much better in all sorts of ways. I think it's the difficulty of being able to identify exactly what it is, you know, maybe not articulate it. I don't think that there's anybody that you're feeling like you need to articulate this to. More it's that kind of, it's a gnawing doubt, you know. I wonder if part of this is you expecting things to go wrong, Cancer, because that would be understandable. Almost like you don't trust the way that things are going enough to be able to relax into it. I mean, the cards that we've got underneath there, the first one is the Two of Pentacles there, and then there's always an unease, I feel, when I'm looking at that. Yes, things are happening, and yes, they're actually, you know, going exactly as they should do. But in the background, we've got that maelstrom. We've got all of those ships kind of rolling up and down on the waves. This character here is somewhat removed from where, you know, where the big emotional stuff is happening, but he's still holding that look on his face. There's still a sense here that everything moves, everything is different, everything changes, and sometimes that doesn't feel quite as nice as we would like it to. We've got the Hanged Man there, and it speaks to a change of perspective, which is, you know, what we would expect to see with the Ace of Swords coming through as well. If you've had some sort of sharp epiphany, then it will change the way that you look at things. For you, I do actually feel like this this epiphany, you know, what it is that this Ace of Swords has pierced for you is this feeling of discomfort, kind of working out exactly where it's come from. Tell me about this. We've got the Knight of Wands there, very present energy, being present in the moment. We also have the Hierophant, or the Wise One as it is in this deck, and we have the Queen of Wands. I think you're adjusting. We've got this Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck there, which speaks to the creation of a new foundation. It's not actually the thing just existing as it is and then being able to build on the top of it. No, this is actually as things are, as they are, in the act of being built. You know, we've got Wands cards here that are speaking to the fact that this is very much kind of in progress. Actually, it's how it feels to me. It's happening in the here and now, but this Hierophant is kind of getting in between the Knight of Wands and the Queen of Wands. Well, you know, that's progression there. We go from the Page to the Knight to the Queen to the King, except that what's missing between the Knight and the Queen here, or what's missing, what's been inserted rather, is this Hierophant. Now, the Hierophant is a wonderful card. It talks, you know, it's the teacher. It is that figure who can disseminate wisdom to us, you know. It's interesting that it's coming out underneath the Hanged Man here, and it's interesting that it's breaking the flow between the Knight of Wands and the Queen of Wands. It's almost like until you've had an opportunity to really get to grips with where you are now, you don't really want to expand. But at the same time, it doesn't feel to me like you have much of a choice, like it's just kind of happening. And this Hierophant speaks to tradition, he speaks to history, he speaks to almost heritage sometimes, but ultimately he talks to commitment. Now, you are committed to a path. I don't think that there's any way that you can go back on where you're going now. But this period of adjustment that is necessary is sort of asking you to notice where it is that you're hanging on to something that doesn't form part of what you've been trying to manifest in your future. It doesn't form part of what the star represents here to you, which is your hopes and your goals, your dreams, your wishes. You know, all of that energy is contained there within the star. But it looks like things are lifting for you in June. You know, it feels like a low-level generalized anxiety that you've been dealing with. And I think that, as my Chaos Magician friend says, observation is processing. Once you understand what it is that is causing the issue, it by definition changes. I can't bother you in the same way. And the cards that we've got to support it are the Queen of Pentacles and the King of Cups. Now, you might be dealing with a Capricorn, you might be dealing with a Scorpio. I'm not sure that that's it, because this feels like a highly personal, very internalized kind of reading. It's very much about what's going on inside of you rather than necessarily what is going on outside, merely just the responses to it. June sees you getting more comfortable, getting much more comfortable with where you are. We've got the Queen of Pentacles, which is a card of self-care. It's a card of taking care of yourself. It's a card sometimes of creating space such that you are able to identify what it is that is kind of making you feel uncomfortable, making you feel uneasy. And we have the King of Cups. And it's interesting that we go from the Knight to the Queen of Wands in both decks, and then we go up to the King of Cups, which is your king. It's your suit. It's water. And it can talk to a level of emotional comfort, actually, that you are arriving at. Let's have a look. Let's pull a couple more cards. Tell me about this Queen of Pentacles, please, the King of Cups. We've got the Two of Wands. And we have the Emperor. And whatever that was. And the Knight of Swords here. There's the Hanged Man again at the bottom of the deck. And there's the Wheel of Fortune with it as well. And this is the thing, like, you feel to me like you know that everything is better this way round. There's no doubt in your mind at all that it's better this way round. But there's a teaching moment in here for you too. You know, the change of perspective here feels like it's the acknowledging of what is different, what has changed, and why you are feeling uncomfortable about it, right? What is it that this is causing? And again, I think it's the state of transition. I think it's the fact that everything is unfamiliar for you. This Hanged Man here seems to have a slightly different message. And he is asking you to not just look to see why you're feeling uneasy, right? Not just to come to the conclusion it's because everything is unfamiliar, or kind of push through that a little bit further and ask why it is that such a thing should seek to make you uncomfortable at all. Like, why is your response that? You know, fire. Check this out. We've got the Page of Wands. There's the page hiding behind the Wheel of Fortune, but there's the Nine of Swords sitting behind that. Now, you know, whichever way you cut it, there's been a great deal of anxiety about this situation. I feel like the anxiety was what propelled you forwards, or what made you kind of bring something to conclusion and look to start something new. It feels like a big driving force behind you, and now you have what you want, and yet you've still been feeling uncomfortable, you've still been feeling uneasy. And yeah, all right, it's transition, it's change. That might be the thing that you're having difficulty adjusting to. But I feel like there's a little bit more going on here than that. And I think were you to sit with this a little longer, were you to, you know, approach this rather than treating this feeling as an inconvenience, something that is making you feel uncomfortable, it's just like, I don't want this, and make it go away. When sitting with why it's here with you in the first place, because the Two of Wands and the Emperor, this is actually a theme that's been coming up today with the readings. You know, the crux of what makes the Emperor who he is his willingness to take responsibility, but the crux of his power lies in his decision making. You know? An emperor who did not make any decisions would find his empire falling down around his ears very, very quickly. Emperors are required to make decisions and judgments day in, day out, on a myriad of different things. You know, and they take responsibility for that. They take charge. Now, to have the Two of Wands preceding it there, I wonder if it is the responsibility for the decision that you've made that you're actually kind of wrestling with, right? And digging down in the unfamiliar, we could start looking at how themes of being resistant to change because you are afraid of either your ability to flourish in such an environment, you know, what is keeping you rooted? Because the Tower's hit and the Tower's done its thing. And I feel like, to a degree, you were kind of wishing this in. There was certainly some energy of manifestation that was going into it there. But it's almost like since you spoke that decision aloud, you've been concerned, not by the wisdom of the decision, because I think it was the right one, but the power that you wield in being able to do it in the first place. It feels uncomfortable to you. And so I would ask why. You know? Certainly it doesn't feel like you've had much practice at, you know, ruling your own empire. And so, you know, that's something to be taken into account. But where did that come from? And why is it raising its head now for you? You know? The Knight of Swords is an interesting energy. It's Gemini again. But it's about the transmission of information. And I really like this Knight of Swords there, right? So we get either, you know, thoughts moving from one part of the head to another. We have us being able to express our thoughts outwardly. And we have it vice versa, you know, coming from other people, being able to understand other people's points of view because they actually use the right words in the right order that makes sense to your brain. But I love the position she's holding here. She's got a sword, you know, she's pointing it directly at her hand. Now, what is in her hand there is the Ace of Swords. That's what's occurring to you right here. Right? It's in your present energy. But she's using that to illuminate, this ball. Right? He's creating this ball of light on her hand, and it's guiding her forwards. I actually think, although you are moving forwards at somewhat of a pace, that the teaching moment for you here is looking backwards and seeing why. Kind of track back this feeling and working out why it's proving to be problematic for you in the first place. Seems like there's a lot here for you to learn about yourself, and by extension, the level of comfort that you can experience in making these kind of major decisions for yourself again in the future. Because this doesn't feel like a one-off. It feels like it's been preparing you to be able to do this again, right? As and when necessary. And to that end, I would imagine that that's what the Nine of Swords is an indication of, right? Here it was in the upright, where it was at the bottom of the deck here, and this was the spur to get you moving on. But wouldn't it be amazing if you could do that without having to get to the Nine of Swords sort of situation? The lack of, well, not the lack, but the removal of this kind of energy from your field simply comes down to, it feels to me, confidence. And a confidence that comes from knowing that the reasons that you were uncertain in the first place were not yours. That they were kind of as a result of energies that other people had put there for you. But it seems like increasingly over the month of June, you're getting much more comfortable with your decision, much more comfortable with the unfamiliar. And as a result, getting much more comfortable with where you might go next. Now you've got this under your belt. Where can you expand? Where can you bring more of this kind of energy to bear in the rest of your life? Ooh, how interesting, Cancer. I think that's fascinating. Right, I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. We're going to look at June specifically and see what we can dig around in there. So if you'd like to join me, the link, as I said, is in the description box. If not, not to worry, not at all. Just know that whatever unease you're feeling at the moment, it will pass, but it'll pass much swifter, much more swiftly, rather, if you spend a bit of time identifying the source of it first. Okay, right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.